Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of the Runnin the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Joey and Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
What's up, fellas? Good to see you. Here to bring another great episode, talking Olympics, talking NBA headlines, and I can't wait to see that wonderful contender-pretender graphic that we are going to cover. We're going to talk about whether or not we think a couple teams. I know it's probably a way too early contender-pretender, but we want to know if these teams are legit conference finals contenders, I think.
I think that's fair. I'm so hyped for the Olympics, dude. Once every 4 years, it's the best sporting event of the year.
Super exciting. Let's get right into it. Today we are going to start previewing the Olympics, which start tomorrow as we are releasing this video on Saturday, July 27th. Nick has the rules of how the whole tournament works. I'm going to throw this up on the screen. Nick is going to try to explain this all to us because it is a little bit confusing. So he'll explain it to us and for you guys so we can try to understand how this tournament all works.
Yeah, so you see on the graphic that there's 3 phases, starting with the group phase, which takes place from starting this Saturday all the way to August 3rd. And then they move into the quarterfinal phase, which will go on August 6th. The semifinals take place on the 8th, and then the bronze medal and gold medal matches are on August 10th. So from this Saturday to August 10th, there's going to be a lot of great Olympic basketball going on. And so in the group phase, what happens is the 4 teams in each group play against each other, and then the top 2 teams from the group automatically advance. So that's where you get 6 out of the 8 teams for the quarterfinal draw. And then, according to like FIBA basketball rules and the classification, they're going to rank the groups by strength, and that's how you will get the first to 8th position. So if there's 2 teams, or if there's 3 teams that win all their games and they go 3-0, it's going to be strength of group that decides whether you're in pot D or pot E. And it's going to go like that for the rest of the way down from 1 to 8. Just the strength of the group, that's where your pot is determined, pot D through G. So from there, you would then have the 2 best pots, or the 2 best pots are going to play the 2 worst pots. So D is going to play G and E is going to play F. The 2 winners of the quarterfinals, or the 4 winners from the quarterfinals, advance to the semifinals, and then the 2 winners from the semifinals play in the gold medal match. The 2 losers of the semifinals play in the bronze medal game. It is a bit confusing just with the rankings. It says that there's a draw that is going to happen, and that is, I believe, just the ranking, how they rank the groups in terms of strength, 1 to 3. So the best team in the best group will be the 2 best teams in the 2 best groups will be in pot D, and then the best team in the next best group will be that first slot in pot E, and then the second place team in the best group will be that second slot in pot E, and so on. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. It's not too confusing. It is definitely, like, it makes sense how they're doing it, but just following along with it is going to be like, you're going to have to be watching. You're going to have to be watching for those rankings and then seeing where the pots are, and then that's how the matchups will be decided, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it sounds similar to how the in-season tournament kind of works as far as those final stages. You just don't really have that. Well, I guess you do. You have the group play into the drawing, and then you have the semifinal. So it's honestly kind of like the in-season tournament a little bit. There are obviously some differences there, but it isn't too confusing. Once we get into it, it will make a lot more sense once games do get started. I do have the schedule pulled up right here for us to see all the games on each day, starting on Saturday, July 27th. These are the 4 men's games we have going on that day. So we can kind of we'll kind of go by day, talking about the games that we are looking forward to the most on each day. And maybe that will go into who we think will eventually come out of this into the final gold medal or the bronze medal game, silver medal game, all that stuff. So here on Saturday, these are the 4 matchups. Joey, let's start with you. What game or what matchup are you most excited for just by looking at these four?
Just those four: Greece, Canada, France, Brazil, Germany, Japan. Uh, Honestly, it's probably Canada versus Greece. I think it has to be. Greece, Giannis, first time they're coming to the Olympics and for a long time. First time Giannis himself is at the Olympics, and then Canada's got a stacked team. They just they just did really well in the World Cup last year, so they're with a lot of high profile NBA players. So I don't know. That's got to be the must watch on the first day.
I would have to imagine that when they do the draw and they rank the groups 1 to 3, that Group A, which is nicknamed the Group of Death because it has Australia, Greece, Canada, and Spain, is going to be like if a team can go 3-0 for Canada, say they beat Spain, Greece, and Australia, they'll definitely be in that first slot in Pot D. And like Group C, United States got a very good draw. They have Puerto Rico and South Sudan, who are probably the 2 weakest teams that qualified for the Olympics this year. So if the U.S. goes 3-0 and there's 2 other teams that go 3-0, then it's possible that the U.S. doesn't get that top. They don't get in that top pot.
They might have to go
really
against
hard.
one of those other teams.
Sorry?
They might have to go against one of those other teams if they don't make that top pot because of their strength of schedule.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be hard to go 3-0 in those 2 other pots. But we'll see. So there are like some stipulations, like it says teams from the same group in the group phase cannot be drawn against each other in the quarterfinals. The team from Pot D will be drawn against the teams from Pot G, and Pot E, like I said, will play Pot F. But the teams from the group phase cannot be drawn against each other in the quarterfinals. So you're going to be playing different teams, like you said.
Okay, that'll certainly make things interesting going forward. I think that for Saturday, that game is going to be definitely key. Moving on to Sunday, Serbia versus the United States. We have 2 men's, 2 women's games. Serbia versus United States is going to be a lot of fun to see. Jokic versus the United States. That's going to be a ton of fun to see. Jokic go up against Embiid, Anthony Davis, the great defenders on Team USA.
So for me, I think in Group C, it's pretty clear cut. I think it's going to be the U.S. and Serbia as the two winners from that group. And if I had to call it now, I would probably say that South Sudan and Puerto Rico won't advance as 2 of the next best teams. Like they take the top 2 teams in each, that's 6, and then there's 2 more, the 2 best third place teams. I would have to imagine that those 2 last teams are going to come out of groups A and B. So just a quick prediction for me. I think it'll be the U.S. and Serbia out of Group C. Group B, I would have to go Germany and France. Germany is loaded. Like they got Schroeder, Tice,
The Wagner brothers.
And then this dude Obst, who I know we watched in FIBA last year. He is just a catch and shoot nightmare. Very fun to watch. So I think it's going to be Germany and France, and then that Group A, Group of Death, definitely going to be Canada, I would imagine. And then I would throw Spain in there too as the 2 that are going to advance from Group A.
Spain has
Or go ahead, Joey.
I was only going to add Spain does have a historically great team with the Gasol brothers back in the day.
Is Scola Spain?
No, Luis Scola was Argentina with
Argentina.
Manu.
Yeah. Man, Group A really is the group of death because all 4 of these teams are spectacular. Australia has so many NBA players led by Patty Mills, who this may be his final Olympics.
Yeah.
Him just getting up there in age, and he always performs in international play. I would not be surprised one bit if Australia was able to make it out. But Greece and Canada, that might be mine because Giannis may be the best player in that group. Still one of the top players in the entire world. So I think Group A, I'll go Greece and Canada. Group B, I will go with France and Germany. And then Group C, I'll go United States and Serbia.
All right, so I'm probably gonna. I think Canada's got to be a lock to make it out of Group A, and I think they're
You
gonna
think
win.
so?
And I would think they're gonna go 3-0 or 2-1, but still have that top spot in the group of death. But I'll be honest, I think Australia is making it out. I think Australia is the second team to go.
All right. So we all
Like,
picked someone different in A.
yeah, like Australia has a really, really great team led by Josh Giddey of all people. Like I saw like a FIBA MVP rankings before they start, and he was in the top 10.
Yeah,
For
I mean
like along
on
with the
that sort.
likes of Dennis Schroeder, LeBron, Giannis, Jokic.
Hey, I should say, so we mentioned LeBron being named the male flag bearer for the United States. Shout out to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Dennis Schroeder. They will be the male flag bearer for their respective countries, and that's obviously a huge deal for those countries and for those players. So, congratulations
That's
to
a
those players.
huge honor. Wow. For Group B, I want to say Germany and Japan. I don't think France makes it. I want an upset. Japan has a really good team, I've heard. I think so. But honestly, the favorites have to be France and Germany. One or
Yeah, they would
two,
have to be they would
because
definitely be the favorites in there to come out of it. I mean, just hearing, I don't know who I heard this come from, so don't quote me on this, but I believe there's like 60 something NBA players that are not on the United States, or players that have NBA experience across the rest of the men's basketball teams in the Olympics. So this could make for one of the more competitive Olympics that we've seen in recent memory.
there are usually, like, at least in recent memory, it's always been like for the Olympics or any of these tournaments, it's always been the USA at top and who can compete with us. This year, it's like you can pick three or four teams in all of Group A, two teams in Group E, and at least two teams in Group C that are all competing for the chance to go to the gold game. Like, it is an incredibly competitive Olympics this year. With that being said, it's got to be Serbia, USA for Group C. I'm rooting for South Sudan to pull an upset and maybe make that one of the best third team spots, because I think they do have a good team after almost pulling the upset. But personally, I think it's going to be one of the teams in Group A, and probably if France and Germany make it, I think Japan will get in as one of the last two spots.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Nick, I think
Nick,
you're muted.
yeah.
Okay, he's gonna exit out and then try back. But just talking about the NBA players that are in the Olympics, I'm looking at Australia's roster currently. It's full of NBA players. There's only one player, or two to my knowledge, that do not have NBA experience. As Nick rejoins us, Australia. These are the players from the NBA on Australia. You got Dyson Daniels, Matthew Dellavedova, Dante Exum, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, Joe Ingles, Jock Landale, Patty Mills, Duop Reith. I mean, Australia is loaded with NBA talent, so they definitely will have a shot to come out of Group A for sure.
Yeah. One of those teams is gonna be out, is not gonna advance to the quarter final phase. Yeah. But back to South Sudan, what I was trying to say before I was cut off. My brother knows that I podcast on Mondays and Thursdays. I don't know why he's calling me. But for South Sudan to get in as one of those final two teams, I think it is going to come down to like the group classification, and they're not in the strongest group. So I don't know how good of a chance they'll have unless they beat Serbia or the US.
As I say, if they beat one of the two top teams, I think they help themselves a whole lot. Or if they even make it close, like if they're not 40-point blowouts. Like if they play the game like they did against the US in the warm-up games and the exhibitions, oof, they're gonna make a case for them to be a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, feel bad for those teams, South Sudan and Puerto Rico, just getting a bad draw. Same thing with the teams in a Group A as well. At the end of Group A, like you said, Nick, one of those teams is not going to make it out, and it's crazy because all those teams are definitely worthy. But they ended up getting a bad draw. It's unfortunate.
I kind of want to change my prediction. I think it is going to be Australia and Canada, and then I'll take Greece as the 6th or 7th, and I'll leave Spain out.
I would also leave Spain out. Spain out, even though historically they have a good team. I don't think this year is it.
And then I think the last 8th place team will come out of Group B, either Japan or Brazil. But I would love to see South Sudan or Puerto Rico knock off Serbia or the U.S. in the group phase and make some noise.
Yeah, shout out Puerto Rico, man. They have Grand Theft Alvarado. Jose Alvarado led them in the World Cup qualifiers or the Olympic qualifiers to make it. As my roommate in the back is going crazy because he's from Puerto Rico and he loves that I'm mentioning him. It's the first time in 20 years their basketball team has gone to the Olympics. So shout out to David. Yeah, shout out David.
That is definitely awesome there. I think I could speak for all of us. Even, we obviously live in the US. I mean, it'd be great to see the US win another gold medal, but probably if we go into biggest hopes for the Olympics, things that we want to see, I want to see a bunch of close games because it's really not that much fun when Team USA just goes in and wins each game by an average of like 30, 40 points. So I hope that we do get some close games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, 100%. I
do
know
you guys
playoffs,
have any other big hopes for the Olympics that you guys want to see?
I just want to see. I want to get that iconic, like the D Wade Bron photo. I think it can be recreated with Steph.
That would be so sick. I want an iconic moment like that. Vince Carter dunking over the 7-footer, like clearing him, like with Vince with the little fro. Oh, dude, that's my iconic moment I remember watching as a kid.
So let's talk about that lineup because Miles, you had said that it's going to be LeBron, Steph, and Joel locked in the starting 5. Durant is going to come back at some point. I would have to imagine he's going to start.
See, now that's the thing. I think normally he probably would start. Obviously, the all-time leading scorer in Team USA history, but coming off injury and not having any in-game reps, they may not want to start him immediately.
Start Derek White.
Steve Kerr's salty that KD left him. He's going to keep him on the bench.
But yeah, so Steve Kerr said that, quote, he likes LeBron, Steph Curry, and Joel Embiid together in that starting lineup. They've been looking at other guys around them, and they obviously have great options, but he likes those 3 together, so he is going to stick to them. He's switched around his starting lineup a lot, just to experiment around, see what fits, what doesn't fit. Who do you guys think would work the best in that starting lineup alongside Steph, LeBron, and Joel?
I would say that they need some more shooting. And that's one place that this roster is actually kind of weak in. They have a lot of superstars, but they don't have knockdown threats other than Devin Booker. I think could be a name, and I really think Drew Holiday would be a great guy to start out there because he's so positionless and he can guard anybody almost. Those are the 2 names I would throw out.
I was gonna say he's the one. Drew Holiday. At least I was gonna say the other forward spot is a little tough. But for me, Drew Holiday at the other guard spot is perfect. Like you said, he doesn't need the ball, especially with Steph Curry out there, to play his game. He can be a spot-up shooter, and he's knocked down. And then on the other end, you have like one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. And then hopefully you'll see in the world. But the other forward, I don't know. I'm still kind of salty that it was Joel Embiid, not Anthony Davis. That's in the starting line because Anthony Davis has been absolutely going crazy.
He really has been. Like, he's come off the bench in all 5 of their exhibition games, and he's averaging 12 points, 10 boards, and 3 blocks per game off the bench, which is very, very impressive stuff there for for Anthony Davis. And I'm sure that's probably the biggest divisive thing between fans, that he is coming off the bench for Joel Embiid, because Embiid just has not looked the best in that starting lineup. He did keep them in the game against South Sudan in that first half, but besides that, he really hasn't looked that great. I probably agree Drew Holiday at the guard spot is probably the way to go. That second forward thing is the tough decision.
What do you think about moving? Obviously, having LeBron play power forward or the 4, and then have Ant Edwards play like a 3,
I was just thinking about
because
that.
Ant Edwards is ridiculous as well.
I like him coming off the bench, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't mind it either. He provides that energy that works off the bench really, really well. Devin Booker, even though he struggled shooting so far, I think that he's not a horrible option to play there. I just think Derek White hasn't played enough. I mean, he joined the team late because it was Kawhi there before, so might be difficult to start him immediately, but I think that Devin Booker or even a Jason Tatum, not bad option. I mean, you can't really go wrong with this group of talent. I do find it interesting that Tyrese Halliburton has kind of been the guy that's fallen out of the rotation. He didn't play at all in their last game, and his minutes have definitely been pretty limited. And that's been kind of surprising to me, because I feel like he's a guy that would be perfect, because like you said, Nick, they need guys that can space the floor, but also one of the US's biggest problems was turning the ball over. Their turnovers have been so high. So having someone out there to just pass the ball, I think that could help out a lot. But obviously Steve Kerr sees differently.
Yeah, the game I'm really going to be watching is that USA South Sudan rematch. It's going to be Wednesday night. And yeah, there's also the France-Germany game is Friday, August 2nd. And that's going to be really very intense too, because that's going to be the last group game. So that could be for the winner of Group A, the France and Germany game, or I'm sorry, Group B, the France and Germany game.
And remember, Friday night is more like Friday afternoon because we're in Paris.
True. Very, very true. The times are all thrown off.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's going to be so much fun to watch this all play out. I'm excited. Hopefully we do get some legendary moments. It's just going to be so exciting.
That would be sweet.
For sure. Well, now let's move over to the NBA. We've talked a lot about the Olympics, so let's talk about the biggest headline about the NBA over the last week, and it's something that we had a feeling would be happening for a little while. It's something that doesn't have to do with any teams, any players, but the NBA officially agreed, I believe yesterday or on Wednesday, that they have agreed to a new 11-year TV deal. They've renewed their deal with the Walt Disney Company, so they're still going to be on ESPN and ABC, but they have not renewed their contract with Turner Sports. No more TNT. They instead are going to go with Amazon Prime Video and NBC/Peacock. Joey, you get us started first. What was your initial reaction to this news?
Joey's in shambles. I got to hear what he's got to say.
Dude, I am so absolutely heartbroken over this. I don't know how much NBA I'm going to watch. I have Peacock, so I'm not mad at the NBC and Peacock. Like, I'm fine with that. But even so, taking it away from TNT, man, like, even so, like we were talking about it in the pre-pod lobby, how Chuck was said he was going to retire and all that kind of stuff at the end of next year, regardless of if they moved. But so I would have been like nice to have at least one more year. But man, this is going to suck. People don't realize how much this is going to change the NBA. Everyone's like, yeah, get the money. You know what's going to happen. I'll still watch. It's like, not a lot of people will. The viewership is going to go down. And with that, people are going to complain more. You're going to hear everyone complaining about how it's going to change. And it's going to take time to change. But for the first while people are still getting used to it, it's going to be hard watching the NBA. I'll be completely honest.
Well, so this final year of Inside the NBA, because that's the thing. We do get one more year of TNT. It starts to kick in the 25-26 season. This final year of Inside the NBA is going to be very legendary. That final show is going to be
Oh, it doesn't
crazy.
start right away. It goes 25.
No, it's another.
Oh,
It's another
I
year.
thought it was. Oh, okay. My bad.
No, we got another season. So
We
we
do
do
have
have
one
one
more
more
season.
season
Oh,
of
thank you.
TNT and everything. It is obviously going to be different to go, I guess, back to NBC. They finished their deal back in, I believe, 2002, 2003. So it's definitely going to be different when that time comes, but I mean, eventually it's going to be okay. We're all going to get
Yeah.
used to it. I think the numbers may go down because I mean, Nick jokes about it a lot with Stream East, how that's going to go up a ton now. And I mean, it's pretty fair because I mean,
Don't
not
say
everyone
their
can afford
name
to
out
get streaming
loud.
to get the streaming services. Not everyone can afford to get that. And I guess the point of this is kind of, I mean, more money from those companies because streaming services are the trend nowadays, but it's also to try to get people to come to the games.
What I hope to see is that, they say when one door closes, another one opens. Maybe it's a long shot. Those guys stick together and they just go independent, start doing their own thing, continue covering the league, and they just post stuff on YouTube or post up somewhere else. And we can continue to enjoy their takes and their, what's the word? Help me out here, guys. Their animosity at times.
Yeah,
Their entertainment value.
entertainment.
Yeah.
That's
Their
perfect.
entertainment value. That's something that can't be replicated. And that's the biggest storyline here for me. I just hope that it's not the end all be all, but it kind of feels that way. So
It's definitely an end of an era for sure. Those guys, like you said, their chemistry. Literally, no, we're not going to see a thing like that again.
even when they would bring in someone else, like I saw Vince Carter on there a couple times this year. Draymond has joined the crew
Green,
sometimes. They just
Jamal
don't.
Crawford.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like Vince Carter especially. Not to call him out, but like it just didn't mesh the same. Like there's a
They never
dynamic
do.
that those guys have, and it's special. And enjoy it while you can.
Man, it's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
be.
Sure.
Oof.
there's that chemistry there because something that's so unique about the three of those players, and then of course Ernie Johnson, the way that they all meshed is incredible. Their chemistry was incredible. But the fact that those three players legitimately had head-to-head battles with each other in their playing careers. And that may not be something that we get for another little while here while obviously current players are still playing. That I think that's the biggest reason why their chemistry was so incredible.
The only way this can be saved is if Amazon signs their own crew, and it's LeBron, D Wade, Melo, Chris Bosh, and Chris Paul. It's the
Banana
Banana
boat.
Boat crew. If you get the Banana Boat crew on your crew, that I think might be the only way to fix this.
Now, Melo cleared the air that he wasn't in that picture.
Yeah, he did. He was never in that
Hey, come
picture.
on. He's part of the crew though.
Oh, obviously, but he was just never on the banana boat.
No, he wasn't. No, we'll get Gabrielle Union to sub in for him then. she was on the boat.
That would
Yes.
be a
So
pleasure to watch. That would be a lot of
yeah,
fun.
that would definitely be a pleasure to watch. So the actual details of this. So the Walt Disney Company, so ABC and ESPN will distribute a total of 80 NBA regular season games per season with more than 20 games on ABC with their primetime Sunday showcase stuff that we've been used to. We'll get the normal stuff from ABC and ESPN, the coverage of the finals, the Christmas Day games, we'll get all of that. NBC will distribute up to 100 regular season games per season, with more than half of the games airing on NBC. And then they will basically cover all the things that Turner was covering. So the MLK Day games, opening night, All Star Weekend, one of the conference finals.
Probably the NBA
Um,
Cup.
Yep. And then Amazon will cover more of the NBA Cup stuff. They will also cover all of the NBA play-in tournament games. And yeah, man, that's really the main details of this. It's gonna be something new to get used to. It's definitely strange because the last time we had a TV deal back in, I believe, the summer of 2016 didn't kick in until 2017.
Oh, summer 2016. I remember that summer.
Yes, I do remember that summer.
was going in.
Um,
I was 1 year out of college. Dang.
yeah.
The
Well,
Cleveland
yeah,
Cavaliers.
Cleveland. Yes. Well, actually, so this might actually been 2015, 2014, whatever year it was. All the stuff was just renewed. It was all renewed. So
Yeah.
we still had ESPN TNT. So this is legitimately going to be the first time we have a change in 20 plus years of how we watch the NBA. So it will definitely take some getting adjusting to, but just as fans got adjusted last, I'm sure everyone at the time was like, "Oh my gosh, we're leaving NBC. We're
Right.
leaving that amazing theme song, which is now going to come back, thankfully." Everyone got used to it. Everyone got used to it, and it's going to be the same thing.
Play the song.
Eventually when it happens.
Orlando
Play
Magic.
this.
Orlando Magic.
Yes, the Orlando Magic song. Well, let us know in the comments your thoughts about the TV deal. We will, I'm sure, have a lot of times talking about our favorite inside the NBA moments throughout their final year coming this next season. That's going to be a fun list to compile coming up.
A draft for NBA on TNT moments.
Dude, that's the future draft. That is going to be a future
Yes.
draft. We will definitely store that for later because that will be awesome. But
Starting
now
lineup
let's get
moments.
into some actual NBA headlines regarding the offseason and next season. Biggest one, the New York Knicks extended head coach Tom Thibodeau for a 3-year deal. Tom Thibodeau has led the resurgence of the New York Knicks franchise to now become one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I made this graphic compiling their records each season since he was hired in 2020. They've been in the playoffs 3 of the 4 years, second round appearances the last 2 years. And when you look at the previous 7 seasons, that painful stretch where they didn't make the playoffs once, they basically won the same amount of games in those 7 years as they have the last 4, which is just incredible to even wrap your mind around it because it seemed like for a while that the Knicks were never going to get out of that stretch where they were the laughing stock of the league, but they are out of it, and it really has to do a lot with Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, I don't think the details were released, weren't they?
As far as the money, no. I mean, you really don't get the money a whole lot unless it's Monty Williams with the Detroit Pistons. I don't think the money has been announced, though. I'll check on that while you guys talk about the.
No, I'm on Spock Trek right now, and it doesn't have anything.
Oh.
All it has
Oh,
here
really?
is that 4 years ago, on July 25th, which is today that the pod's getting released, or that we're recording it rather. He signed a 5-year contract in 2020, and then literally a day before, 4 years later, signs a 3-year extension to stay there. Definitely worth it. Definitely deserving. Considering the graphic you just put up. I'm excited to watch what the Knicks do in these next 3 years. They're giving Tibbs a 3-year window. I think that there's a good chance that they go ring hunting in these next, like they're going to be ring hunting for the next 3 years.
I think Tibbs 100% is one of the best coaches I've seen personally coach because like all the times when he was in Chicago, those teams were hell to play. Like they were so good. And he's made New York relevant again. When I was in high school, they were the laughing stock. For those 7 years prior, they were just never serious. And then all of a sudden, Tibbs comes in. They get a couple players. They hit. Like all of a sudden, everything's just incredible and well deserved. I think they're going to go ring hunting, especially with Jalen Brunson taking that pay cut. I think Knicks are in a prime spot to lock up their future for the next 5 years or so. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's basically already wrapped up. I mean, we've talked about them a lot during the offseason because they've just had an incredible offseason. I mean, we have their roster here of the changes that they've made. Getting Mikal Bridges, they obviously they are going for it. They traded away all their first round picks. They're basically their whole future of draft capital to go for it. They have a window, they are going for it, and this team is definitely going to have a chance in the Eastern Conference. Last year was just a tough ending for them with the second round loss to Indiana. I'm sure they have a lot of regrets about that series. I know Jackson will say, well, if they weren't injured, they would have won the series. But there were times where they should have taken advantage. I mean, they were up 2-0 in that series with not many injuries at the
So
time.
Thibodeau is going to be 70 at the end of this contract. He gets a ring, or maybe 2, who knows. You hanging it up if you're him? If you get a ring?
No. Unless his health starts to like fade or something, or if it takes a turn. But like, look at Greg Popovich.
Well, he's only there because of Wemby.
Still, man is like 100 or something. I don't know. Turning
Okay,
90.
so here's what
like,
you're saying.
I don't know.
Here's what I hear you saying. Tell me if I'm right. The Knicks get their ring. Thibodeau's contract goes up. He's in his 70s now, whatever. They trade for Cooper Flag. That extends his longevity.
Oh my
and
God.
then Thibodeau
Okay,
stays.
let's not talk about the Knicks like they're the Spurs dynasty. What are we doing?
Oh,
That's what Joey said. I'm just asking if I was right.
No, I'm just comparing. Like, who cares about the age? Like, Popovich he's 75, by the way. I thought he was like at least in his 80s, to be honest.
No, I mean, if he should coach however long he wants to coach and however
Yeah.
long it works out for him to coach. I mean, it honestly wasn't that long ago when after he left Chicago, he kind of worn out his welcome in Chicago. Then it was a struggle for 3-4 years in Minnesota, where I mean, that whole Minnesota situation was just a big struggle. But he didn't really look like that great of a coach. Teams, there were Knick fans that were upset when he was hired because he had a bad reputation in Minnesota, and now it's completely flipped around for them, and now they're in this great position.
I don't know. My thing is like,
or go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, you get this ring, you're validated. 30 plus years in the league, hang it up, brother.
Definitely could. I mean, two-time coach of the year. He won a championship in 2008 as an assistant for Boston. And he's coached, several very, very good teams. So he definitely has the resume as one of the best coaches of the last, of the time we've been watching basketball. He's definitely been one of the better coaches of that time.
I'll say it, if he gets a ring, he's better than Doc Rivers. Clears him.
Yeah, you can make the case. Probably
he just needs that ring. Right now, he's behind it because Doc at least has that one ring. But
yeah,
I would take Tibbs over
it's not
Doc.
like Tibbs. Yeah, but yeah, well deserved. Tom Thibodeau, congratulations to him and the New York Knicks. Now let's go to a extension of a player from the team that eliminated the Knicks in the playoffs. Andrew Nembhard, extended by the Indiana Pacers for 3 years, $59 million. Nick, what are your thoughts on this extension?
Kind of a good deal for Indy, no? About 20 mil a year. So. That comes to. I'm not the best mathematician, but 59 divided by 3, 59 is almost 60, so it's got to be close to 20 a year.
Yeah.
Pacers are looking playing the long game, I think, a little bit. And Nembhard is someone who, can be a piece in what they're trying to do there. Yeah, I like it. I like it for the Pacers. I like it for Nembhard. We'll see. I think that could turn into a contract that ages really well.
I agree. With the new TV deal, contracts are about to spike.
Yeah.
Even more so. And he was so clutch for them in this past playoffs. And you need a guy like that. And why not keep him for a couple more years? Honestly, like that's a contract for under $20 million for a key contributor on a playoff team. It's a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, the efficiency that Nembhard had both regular season and playoffs was incredible. I mean, he shot, 50% from the field in the regular season. In the playoffs, it went up to 56% for a guy his size. Like, it's not like he's that tall of a guy playing the off-guard position. And he really stepped up for them in the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. And obviously, their incredible run to the conference finals. He put up nearly 22 points per game in the conference finals. This is a second-round pick, just his second year in the NBA. Had this crazy game winner against the Knicks.
The 3-point percentage shocks me. Yeah, 50% from the field, 36% from the three in the season. In the playoffs, 56%, but 48% from three in the playoffs. Like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, he was definitely incredible. And like you guys have said, I think that this is definitely a good contract, especially considering the TV deal that is now officially signed. That's going to kick into next season. I know Brian Windhorst from ESPN. He has this methodology when it comes to contracts, and I really like it. When you sign someone to a new contract, if you had to trade that contract 5 minutes later, could you trade it? And I think you can with this contract. I think that this is a contract where if the Pacers want to go big name
Swing it.
hunting in the
Yeah.
future, they could probably do it now.
Yeah.
Because I do have questions with this Pacers team on whether or not they can even make it to where they were at the end of last year, or if that was a fluke. I have questions about that, but they are going to run it back with this same team, and I think that if you're going to do that, then extend him. It's a good contract for a good player.
I'm about to make Joey the biggest Nembhard fan in the world because he was a Florida Gator his freshman and sophomore year. He's a 4-year college guy. Played over 120 regular season college games in his career. I mean, these are becoming more and more prevalent. Just older guys that are ready to make an impact now that they're like 22, whatever, 23.
Stay the couple more years, man. You guys, like, the guys that are there that come out year one, it's like, yeah, you're very talented and you're raw. So it's like you may take a year or two to feel yourself. You stay a couple more years, you're like, yeah, you're a little older, but like you're already developed. You're going to come in and make an instant impact. And that's what a lot of teams just need.
Yeah, and it's worked out great for the Pacers. I mean, the way that they've turned around their roster, we talked about it a lot with Dallas on their run to the finals. We didn't really talk about it a whole lot with Indiana for whatever reason, but the Pacers, they quickly turned their rebuild into, a very solid team, very great offensive team. Their question is going to be, can they improve defensively next year? Because their offense, it was so historic last year. I doubt that they can keep up that pace next year. So they're going to have to improve their defense a little bit. But either way, they had a very good year. It makes sense to run it back the next season with basically the same core players. So I like it.
So Nembhard
Speaking
was
about go ahead.
selected by the Pacers with a pick that they got from the Cavs.
That
Yes,
stings.
I believe he
stings.
was the Karis LeVert trade. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong on that.
It says
Oh
with
no,
Rubio.
actually. Yes, so this was traded to the Pacers in the Karis LeVert trade. That's right.
Good job,
That's right, I
Cavs.
forgot about that.
That stings.
Hey, I'll take.
I mean, there's no guarantee that we would have drafted him anyway. So
That is true.
Yeah, was it even our? Oh, this is actually the Houston Rockets pick.
right.
This was originally a Houston Rockets pick. So shout out to both of our teams. All right. Next signing. We'll just talk about the Mavs. We keep moving on here. They signed Spencer Dinwiddie, 1-year deal to add to their bench. What are your guys' thoughts on the Mavericks bringing in Spencer Dinwiddie?
I thought the Lakers picking him up last year was going to be a bigger impact than it ever ended up being. He didn't get a whole lot of rotation minutes for them last year, I believe.
Yeah, he was pretty bad last year, all things considered. For both Brooklyn and the Lakers when he got there, it was kind of disappointing there. I remember mid-year he got traded to Toronto, and they didn't want to pay him the rest of his contract, so they just bought him out.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Like, what you said in the pre-pod lobby when we were asking about the schedule, you said the Spencer Dinwiddie, and I'm just like, that's a terrible signing. They're like, well, he did good the first time. It's like, yeah, he did well the first time in Brooklyn too. And then that's what they said when he went back to Brooklyn, and look how that turned out. Like, it's just it's a good backup, but like nothing crazy.
If nothing else, I mean, he's been in the league a decade. He's a veteran guy that they can bring into a Dallas team that made the finals last year. Hopefully provide some leadership in the locker room.
Do they still have Dante Exum?
They do.
I would still have Spencer Dinwiddie third then behind Dante Exum.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, this is their current roster right now. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, so he was just a Dallas Maverick. I mean, 2 seasons ago now, the 22-23 season. and he was traded to Brooklyn in the Kyrie Irving trade. And that second half of the year, he was actually awesome. I mean, he put up 17, 9 assists, 4 rebounds. It was just this last season where he was bad. I don't think that it was just a fluky thing that he had a very good, end of his year to Brooklyn and then that start of the year in Dallas too. I mean, this is a guy that for Dallas in 2022, he was key in their run to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, this was him in the postseason in 2022, and he was super clutch for them and this team. I mean, posterizing Rudy Gobert in the playoffs. I mean, he was like a whole different player. They asked him to play a bit of a James Harden kind of role, taking step back threes in isolation, and it worked out really, really well. So they're going to bank on him having this sort of impact again this year.
Yeah, he does seem like he picks it up in the playoffs a little bit. The following year in Brooklyn, they only played 4 games and got swept, but he averaged 16 and a half and 6.5 assists a game on 39% from deep on 40 minutes a game. I mean, a guy who's going to make an impact in the playoffs, like I said, a bet.
That's what I mean. I mean, he's not bad. He just had a bad year last year. And I think that just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths because of a bad year.
He's a serviceable veteran backup point guard.
Yeah, that's
Nothing
basically
else.
All right, well, now to end up the podcast, let's do contender.
Yes.
Pretender.
Yes.
All right, let me start.
This has been something we did a couple of times during the course of the regular season last year. We are doing it, like Nick mentioned, very, very early, 3 months before the season starts. And our opinions on these teams, they could change in a week. We got a lot of time, but just a very early contender or pretender. Who would like to start with a team? Nick, you get us started.
The old mile-high madness going on out there. What is happening in Denver? Where are you guys with Denver?
Ooh. I was thinking about bringing this team because I don't know how I feel about this team because the last 2 off seasons, they've really lost their depth. And that was what cost them in the playoffs last year. Now, this year, they have signed a couple players that I think will help them out. They lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was their starting shooting guard. So this year they are going to bank on probably Christian Brown sliding into that shooting guard position. And then off their bench, they've added Russell Westbrook, not official yet, but by all reports, he's going to go there to be their backup point guard. And then Dario Saric to be their backup 5. And I like both of those signings. How much does it impact their title chances? I don't think it really changes a whole lot. I kind of view them I still view them in that top tier in the Western Conference because they have the best player in the world. But will those additions and will them now having at least veteran guys on the bench, will that change anything? We'll find out. Joey, where do you stand on the Nuggets?
Yeah, I know we mentioned saying the contender would be conference finals contender, and that is the Denver Nuggets. When you have Jokic, you're automatically, almost automatically, they still have a good starting lineup around him. But yeah, it's the depth. Those guys are good. It helps. But I'll be honest, I don't see them as a contender for the championship, for the finals.
Okay.
They can make it to the conference championship. It might be unlikely with all the other incredibly, insanely talented Western Conference teams that came out of the blue this year. And then even if they make it out of that, then they probably have to go against Boston.
So I got a couple things.
Their chances. I would like their chances against Boston. I like them this year too. If they met in the finals, I like Denver's chances against Boston. They just ran into Minnesota, who was a team that was literally built to stop Denver.
Yeah,
that's true.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if they have to meet up with Minnesota again, or heaven forbid you run into OKC, who now has Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, who is also pretty built to beat Denver. Now that's 2 teams. It's a little more difficult.
So for me, I don't know if this is good. It's probably bad. Like you said, Miles, losing depth, and they're kind of down to a core 4. And that's where I think like this is bad because I'm relating them to the Cleveland Cavaliers now. They're down to Jokic, Murray, Porter, and Gordon. We've heard it before, the core 4. That's all who's left almost from that championship team. I mean, not all who's left, but like rotationally, the guys who were playing in the finals that year. I honestly think that this season not only is going to come down to Christian Brown, whether or not he can step in and have a KCP-like impact. There's two guys on here that I think, two guys on the roster that I think could have a significant impact, and if they don't, it's going to be very bad, and that's Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther. Like, those guys can make an impact, and if they do, it will really help Denver's chances of being a contender for the finals. And if they don't, then they're going to be really thin on that second line. Another guy that they just drafted this year is PJ Hall. Had a really good summer out of Clemson. He's also another guy to watch for them, sort of in that same category. So it's not like they don't have options, but
It's more
I'm definitely not putting them in the contender. I don't think I'm putting them in the – I don't know where I'm putting them. That's kind of why I asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I could definitely agree with you. I mean, so Peyton Watson's a guy that he was the guy we were all talking about like last offseason. Like, he's the guy that has to step up in the rotation now that Bruce Brown is gone. And he was good in the regular season. He played 80 games, 7 points per game, 47% from the field. He could not do anything in the playoffs. He completely lost his offense. And because of that, he couldn't play on the floor. He was brutal in the playoffs. So their bench got even thinner. I mean, this team, obviously they're top heavy with, I mean, a core 4. I mean, at least this team, they've won a championship with that core 4, and it includes the best player in the world. So
Right.
I'd still take this team, to do some solid things. I think that their lack of depth could haunt them, as we're saying. I like the Westbrook and Saric thing because now they have solutions. They have options to go to. They really didn't have many options to go to last year. I do think, though, that if this year does go poorly for them, or it ends the way it did this year, Michael Porter Jr. is probably going to get traded because they don't have anyone else really. They don't really have any other wiggle room to make moves besides Michael Porter Jr. And I don't think they would move him mid-season. I think that this would be a summer thing that they would do next year. But again,
What do you
that's
guys think
only
about-
if it's a struggle.
Yeah, they could move MPJ. What do you guys think about this Jamal Murray extension eligibility thing and not getting done? Because next year he's making $45.9 at a 29.6% of their cap space. And my question is he worth that? And
Well, I
if he's
believe they
not-
actually already gave it to him.
Oh, they did?
I believe they did extend him. It just may not be official on their books yet, but I believe that the extension, yes, 4 years, $208 million. He's eligible for that extension, and all signs point to a deal getting done. Which, I mean, I would make the move. I mean, championship point guard, I would totally do it.
He's worth 30% of your cap?
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah, him and Jokic are your top 2, so you got to keep them kind of happy. I know we talk about the core 4, but realistically, if you're looking at the core 4, there's 2 tiers. Actually, there's 3 tiers. You got Jokic, Murray, and then the other 2.
Yeah, I think that Murray and Jokic, they're probably still the best duo in the league, arguably, as far as like the best 2-man game in the league.
Yeah.
Keep them together. I mean, there's no better option than the best 2-man game in the league. I think they just came across a great defense. And now that they've seen this in the playoffs, I mean, they have a full series worth of film to go off of in the Minnesota series. I think that they should be able to combat it better this year now that they know kind of better what to do. But there is a possibility that this season does end like it did last year. So contender or pretender, I think I'll still go contender because they have the best player in the world, and anything can happen when you have the best player in the world. But I would not be surprised if they didn't make it past the second round again because they go up against one of those two teams like Minnesota or OKC.
Well, if it ends exactly like it did last year, where they blow it at home in Game 7 by 30 points or whatever it was, then there's definitely there's going to need to be some questions asked. But as far as like getting eliminated in the second round, yeah, it's a different story.
Yeah, I'll still say contender, at least if we're going off the basis that it's at least a conference championship contender. But if we're talking finals contender, which I think that should be their mindset since they just won it a couple of years ago, they're still in their window. I think it's still championship or bust, and right now it's a pretender for that.
All right, well, Joey, you want to go next with your team?
Yeah, sure. What was I talking about earlier? Oh, the Knicks. Oh, we love talking about them. I love talking about them because I love just dragging them through the mud. So here are your Villanova Knicks, and let me know, contender or pretender?
Contender. They're the second best team in the East.
Knicks right there. I mean, Nick, go ahead. Nick, go ahead.
That's all I got. Contender, the second best team in the East. I think that they're the best challenge for Boston. I think we're about to talk about Philly, but Philly is right there as well. So the only way I could see them not making the conference finals is if Philly's in over them. For me, it's Philly and New York, or I'm sorry, Boston and New York. And that's the way I see it happening in June.
I would agree. Contender, I would totally agree. I mean, the Nova Knicks, I mean, they've played with each other before, so there's not going to be a problem with shots, who's going to take all the shots. They know Jalen Brunson's the number one guy. Mikal Bridges, we saw him, in a number one option role in Brooklyn, didn't really work out the best for his game. He can resort back to how he was in Phoenix when I didn't even realize just in the 2022 season, he was second in defensive player of the year as a wing player. He can resort back to that role. Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle is still there. He's going to start for them, and he was still an all-star last year. So he's still going to be good. I think they don't have any questions for me defensively. Their questions are their front court play because Mitchell Robinson does not have the best health history, and you lose Isaiah Hartenstein. And then offensively, can they have more variability than just give Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle the ball and let them go to work?
Well, I think the answer to that is yes, because I think Mikal's going to do wonders for them. They still got Dante. Good, secondary driver, decision makers, both of those guys. For me, the only thing that can kind of rock the boat here for New York, because like you said, Miles, they have played together. There should be no issues, no drama, really. They just locked up their coach we talked about. The only thing that could rock the boat is Randall coming back and whether or not they see fit to possibly explore options to move him and try and upgrade their roster, maybe in the front court, where they are lacking.
I was going to say, that's the reason I also want to say contender because they are, in my opinion, also are the second best team in the East. But the biggest concern for me is exactly what both of you said. Julius Randle coming back because, hey, as much as we love to rag on Goglin, I got to defend him. He's pretty spot on with Julius Randle's defense and how, just a hole he is on the court. You can walk right over him, right through him. He's nothing. And their front court issues outside of Randle. I don't think people have put enough emphasis on them losing Isaiah Hartenstein. Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa both have injury issues, right? Because Achiuwa was just out.
And Precious Achiuwa, he's got that asterisk there because he is still a restricted free agent. We don't know if he is going to be back. If a team does offer him a contract that the Knicks can't match, then he's going to be gone. And that is a possibility because the Knicks, even with the Jalen Brunson pay cut, as far as for this season, they're still paying a lot for this team.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they couldn't sign Isaiah Hartenstein back.
Do you think the Knicks could try and pursue Jared Allen for Randall?
That'd be a terrible. Cavs wouldn't do that.
I don't know why the Cavs would want to do that.
Yeah, but that's my biggest issue with them because if they do play against the Cavs, we have our guards that could possibly match up at least a little better, but we destroy New York on the inside. Don't get me wrong, their wing play is way better than ours right now. They have the clear advantage there. but we have the very big clear advantage on the offensive end, especially if Mobley takes the leap. And for example, if they go against a healthy Bucks and you got Giannis running his rampant just in the paint, Joel Embiid, same thing. There's a lot of good teams, especially in the East. Pascal Siakam with the Pacers. There are so many teams in the top tier of the East that have really good big men and guys that operate in the post elite at an elite level. And they
Joey,
don't.
where do you think the Knicks will finish in the Eastern Conference at the end of the regular season?
At the end of the regular season, me personally, probably second. I think they're right behind Boston. Like, honestly, if you're giving me my prediction, it's probably second. But in the playoff, when it's down and dirtier and grittier and a little tougher on defense and stuff, and you have to be more creative and you don't have open threes all over, because I will say in the regular season, New York Knicks, probably a top team to watch. They're going to be super fun to watch this year. But in the playoffs, in my opinion, if all these teams are healthy, because this past year none of them were, I think they're going to run into a real tough time in the playoffs. Like they may have to come into another second round exit.
No.
Yeah, the East was so close last year. I mean, obviously, besides the Celtics running away with the number 1 seed, seeds 2 through 7 were separated by 3 games, which is just unheard of. And there's a world where we could see that again this year because all these teams are going to come back healthy in theory. That's always the hope.
So you
but
guys
New
both
York,
said, you guys both said contender. That's fair. I have my worries. I think are validated.
Oh, absolutely. I have the same worries. And I think the offensive thing too, it can be a bit worrying because it doesn't matter. We were just giving Tom Thibodeau his praises, but it's because of his defense that his teams are so good. Offensively, he's not really a good coach. He's not really a good coach. We've seen even on those great Bulls teams, like it doesn't matter who's on the roster. There's MVP D Rose, All-Star Luol Deng, Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah. There were not a lot of, crazy, offensive schemes besides, pick and roll. There weren't crazy plays. It's kind of similar to this Knicks team. So I think that that's something that could hurt them. But at the end of the day, I think they're a contender because they are the second best team in the East on paper. They could finish with the top spot in the East. I would not be surprised if that happened as well.
Yeah, I started laughing because you said All-Star Luol Deng, and I forgot that was a thing.
It is a thing. He was really good.
I mean, they were only scoring like 80 points a night for.
Yeah.
Miles,
all right, so
what team do you got?
We mentioned it a little bit before. My team is the Philadelphia 76ers because they obviously on paper they look great. Here's their roster. They've made so many changes. They've brought in a lot of new players, most notably Paul George, the biggest move of the summer. But I do wonder if them making so many different moves and having a bunch of different players that they need to try to acclimate to the new team, if that could hurt them. We saw that happen with the Milwaukee Bucks last year, where they bring in a new star player, Damian Lillard, and it didn't really work out the best. So I'm kind of wondering if that could be a problem with this team. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Injuries are obviously the first concern with all of these guys. Basically, as soon as someone gets hit and injured for an extended period of time, whether it's the regular season or during the playoffs, it's debilitating for this team. One of those injuries go down in the starting lineup, you're done. Honestly, even if it's Kelly Oubre Jr. or Caleb Martin, like even the 2 weaker positions. Like you got KJ Martin behind you and nobody behind Kelly Oubre right now, or they'll just like move Ricky Council or put Paul George there. Like I know
Eric Gordon at the 3.
Yeah, there's a solution there, but it's not a great one. It's an even worse one than they have out there. So that's the first concern. But you're telling me on paper, all healthy, I've seen all these guys play. I think they're a contender.
Yeah. Shout out to Daryl Morey. I think he's pretty much done a great job and kind of made a great template for how to rebuild a roster, how to one-up Matt Ishbia, like how to do a better job than what the Suns did. That was my whole thing when they signed Paul George. I'm like, all right, you got a big 3. Let's not make it what happened in Phoenix last year where they had nobody else, and then their first signing was the same signing that the Suns did with Eric Gordon. I'm like, oh, well, that's not a great omen. I'm like, how is this going to go? But then they bring in Caleb Martin. Andre Drummond was next. Kyle Lowry. They re-signed. Reggie Jackson just got signed. I think they did a really good job to fill out that roster in a very competitive way that is going to have some depth. And even if one of those guys do go down, it's not like they're going to be a very bad team. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So I was just agreeing with it. Yeah.
I was going to say that, Miles, you bring a very valid point in that these are all going to be new faces, and cohesiveness and chemistry is definitely a thing that's going to take some time to get used to. But what's scary is, like, if that does happen, and it does take a couple, like, by the All-Star break, maybe they're 4 games above 500, maybe they're 6 games above 500. After you have that experience, you have the opportunity to take a break and then lock in. And then maybe, if everyone's healthy the rest of the way, you get hot at the right time, could be scary because Philly was scary last year when Embiid was healthy. And this team is unquestionably much more talented than their team last year.
Oh, this is the best Sixers team they've had since the 2019 team when they had Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons playing at a high level.
Ben Simmons playing at all.
Yeah, I've been playing at all.
Sorry.
This team, they definitely look great. I'm excited to see how it all works out on the floor. I'm wondering if the three-point shooting, I don't know if they have enough three-point shooting in the starting lineup as far as spacing, because Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, they're going to have the ball. Embiid's going to be posting up. Can Kelly Oubre and Caleb Martin provide enough spacing in that starting lineup to provide three-point shooting? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I think injuries, they did a great job at the center and point guard positions on getting depth, because that was the thing. Like, if Joel Embiid goes down with another injury, which, God forbid, I hope that does not happen, because I'm tired of Joel Embiid getting hated on so much because of injuries. I mean, he's an incredible player. If he does get injured again, Andre Drummond is an incredible backup to have in your starting lineup. He can still give you 20 games, even at this stage of his career, if he is in that role. And that's huge, where you were just saying with the Knicks, Joey, in a conference where there are so many teams that have great front court play, that's going to be huge to have a guy like Andre Drummond that could start for you.
100%. And at least with the shooting, what you were saying, Kelly Oubre and Caleb Martin, at least you can't leave them open. So they can at least space the floor like that. They're enough where if you leave them open, it's probably going to go in. So you at least have to get a hand in their face to make it more difficult. So that's just, I think that's good enough because, like you said, Maxey and Paul George are just going to be dominating. And then once they have to double one of them, they'll give it to Embiid, and then they're going to have to triple Embiid. It's just going to be a mess for off defenses everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, go with contender as well for this team, because they do just look so good on paper. But I think that there is something that should be said for teams like the Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, Cavs, teams that were ahead of them in the standings last year, even the Magic and Pacers, that have already been together for a year and won't have to worry about this sort of gelling process at the beginning of the year.
Chemistry makes or breaks teams, man. Like, it really does. So, like, you can have the best team on paper, but if you guys can't share the ball or even look at each other, man, you guys are done. And then you got crappy teams. Oh, yeah.
And I'll change the parameters a little bit.
Okay.
Instead of conference finals, let's go first round win. And I'm going back to the West. You guys both picked Eastern Conference teams, like ganging up on me or something. I don't know. But give me the Sacramento Kings. Give me your thoughts on how DeMar is going to mesh there.
Ooh, you know what? So, Joey, we have not had you on, actually, since the signing happened. What were your thoughts on that signing?
Dude, y'all know I'm so high on the Kings. I love the Kings. Mike Brown's the greatest coach of all time. I'm going to go in this year from the start saying it, not just started at the end of the season, but like
no sarcasm detected.
Yeah, no sarcasm detected at all. But no, in reality, this Sacramento team is good. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, all NBA talents. Sabonis clearly, obviously, he just made the All-NBA team. Fox, he's at least an all-star, potentially could get to an All-NBA, but there's just obviously so many guards. But at least they have the talent with that. And then you just have another scorer there. That is perfect. Because, like, even Sabonis' numbers will probably, like, even though he averages under 20 points and then still gets, like, 14 rebounds, even if his scoring goes down a little bit, that rebounding and the assist, the ball's still going to go through him because he can pass anywhere on the floor. Like, I think it's really a perfect addition. And DeMar, at least they get if Malik Monk comes because they got Malik Monk back too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, DeMar's gonna pull up like right in the mid range. Malik on one side, Fox on the other. He can either take it or pass to either of those guys that will score automatically. I think it's a great fit. It's an upgrade on Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, it is. He was even pretty solid for them, but DeMar DeRozan was one of the most clutch players in the league the last few years. You get him with De'Aaron Fox. So the question was to win a playoff series?
Yeah.
I don't think that this team can win a playoff series.
I'm with you. I think they're a pretender.
I think they're a contender. I think if they play the Lakers, they could win.
Oh, well, absolutely. The Kings smoked the Lakers.
They would have to get a top 4 seed to do that.
They would not. They could. Oh, wait, yeah.
I just want to see this freaking Sacramento New Orleans matchup that I've been waiting on for like 4 years. 2 years.
Sabonis versus Zion. DeJounte
I just think that they're evenly matched.
I want to see CJ versus DeMar. Oh, that's such a good game.
Hey, I mean, look, the Pelicans and Kings, those are two playing teams that made huge moves this summer to acquire all-star caliber players. So that would definitely be a lot of fun.
Up. They're trying to keep up with that loaded West, man. Props to Sacramento and New Orleans, man.
Shout out to them.
Light the beam.
Light the beam. Yeah. Well, eventually, about probably a week or two, we will get in depth with actually breaking down each team by division. So that will be a lot of fun. We'll have a whole lot of questions about each team to go through. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Leave a comment with your thoughts on these contender or pretender. Do you think that the Nuggets, Sixers, Knicks, and Kings are contenders or pretenders? Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.